Hello, everyone, and welcome to Cosmere Connections. We're a collective of book-loving nerds rereading Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere series. From book 1 to book 16 million, we'll be uncovering every secret connection there is to find. Today, we are joined by Swiggity Swoo.
Eternity ended one podcast ago.
John.
Hello. Yeah, I don't got anything. I just,
Kay's here too.
Merciful Domai.
And I'm ReaderWarrior, and today we're going to be covering Elantris Part 1, The Shadow of Elantris, chapters 4 through 8. Kay, I believe you have chapter 4.
Yes. So, this is a Rayoden chapter. So, if you guys haven't noticed, these chapters in the book, it goes Rayoden, Sereni, and Crathen. It's just an interesting fact about this book. So, about the way that it's organized. So, this is a Rayoden chapter. So, Rayoden Galadon is showing Rayoden around, using his 30 days that he is given.
and saying Colo a lot.
Colo, yes,
Colo?
a lot. Colo? So, Galadon informs Rayoden about the 3 different gangs in the city, in Elantris. So, the first one is Sheor's men, which are the ones that chased him on his first day. And they are crazy, ruthless. Then you have Karatha's people, and she is the most not lenient, but she is the kindest out of all of them. Like, if you don't try to mess with her stuff, she won't try to mess with you. Like, she'll leave you alone as long as you leave her alone, and she's not going to hurt any of the people who come into the city. And the last one is at the library. What's his name?
I can't remember.
Aandon.
Is Aandon. Aandon's crew, and his crew is at the library because he realized that you could that the old scrolls of Elantris were written on leather, and you can eat that. Rayoden was very upset to learn this.
Yeah. Nerd!
You're eating the books?
Like
The spiritual successor, or the spiritual predecessor to Elend.
Yeah, no doubt. I do like this idea too, like, because Galadon's kind of going through all like the heads of the different gangs, and when he gets to that guy, it's almost just like, yeah, he hasn't done a whole lot, but he did discover that you could technically eat the books. That's like the one thing he has to say about him.
Yeah.
He may not have much, but he's got that going for him.
Yeah.
And just his whole speech at the beginning, like, I don't know if you guys will get this reference, but it kind of reminds me of like your friend telling you how to play Dark Souls 1. He's like, when you go in there, if you take the right path, the skeletons are going to eat you alive, so don't go there. Don't turn around, because that's Blight Town, and you're going to die immediately. So it's kind of like him just being like, yeah, you want to go this way? That's technically where you're supposed to be.
Like how you're supposed to run past all of the first enemies in Elder Scrolls. You're not actually supposed to fight them.
And then, like,
no wonder
also
I never got
just
into those games.
This whole like beginning was super video gamey to me. Of like, these are the 4 gang leaders, and you're gonna, this is their territory, and this is theirs. These are the Bloods, and these are the Crips.
Here, walk over to this wall and press this button. Save point activated.
And then I'm going to take you back to my house.
Yes.
Fast travel reached.
Also, we find out that Karada has apparently been trying to escape Elantris. She's tried on 2 separate occasions now to get out of Elantris.
Is it technically try if you succeed, but just not for very long?
To get to the palace, to get out of Elantris and get to the palace for some reason.
Yes, because if you don't try, you can't do.
Yeah, exactly. So, which she is the only one who has succeeded at escaping Elantris. Or maybe just the only one who has tried to escape Elantris. But, which is interesting. And
She's also kind of. Oh, is she
You're
the
good.
one who's like located in the central tower too?
Yeah, she's located in the palace.
Okay, like the big spire at the center.
Yeah.
The only remaining spire.
Yes.
Cool.
And the only well, and there's only one well in the city. Because Elantris had indoor plumbing that was powered by Aeons. So why would you need a well? So there's only
Fancy.
one well in the city. And also as they're walking around, Rayoden kind of remarks to himself about how dirty the city is. Like it shouldn't be this dirty after only 10 years. Like it shouldn't be covered in this much muck and grime after 10 years.
Yeah, I found that to be one of the most fascinating sections of these chapters for sure. Even when he says like Elantris looked as if it had been abandoned for centuries. Its wood was decaying, its plaster and bricks were disintegrating. Even stone buildings were beginning to crumble. Its coating and everything was omnipresent film. Basically, he gets around to saying like something of like the city was committing unalive itself.
Committing unalive.
But just
You gotta
that
be careful
wording.
I know. It's just. I know, but it's like not trying to unalive itself, just committing unalive.
I didn't know how to phrase it, okay? I decided halfway through the sentence that I didn't want to say the real word.
It was a good catch.
Yes.
But you know
yeah.
what I mean? That's such a fascinating like idea.
Yeah. Because, like, we have to remind ourselves constantly that this has only been going on for 10 years. Like, this city should not look this bad after 10 years. Like, there's something else going on here. Oh, and he has a passing thought for Serene, who is going to be his wife, which he thinks that she never made it to Erelon. He doesn't know because she was supposed to arrive later for their wedding. She wasn't supposed to arrive when she did. She was going there to surprise him.
Her mistake.
Oh yeah.
He gets a little sappy over it.
Mm-hmm. If only I had been able to meet her, if just once.
And that girl who was watching me as I was thrown into the gate, she was cute too.
Oh, but at the end of the chapter, Galadon decides to bring Rayoden to this house. And in the basement of the house, it is filled with books. Which Rayoden is very excited about.
I never should have brought you here, Sully.
And we find out that them as Elantrians can draw aeons.
I love when Galadon he's like, "Oh, you mean like this?" And Rayoden's just like,
Money?
You can what?
They also pass a group of Hoeds. Hoeds?
Hoed. That's the way.
Hoed.
I don't know how they. I don't remember how they pronounce it in the regular audiobook, but that's how they pronounce it in the graphic audio, and so
That's how they pronounce it. That's how they pronounce it. The Hoed.
And like they're all sort of mumbling to themselves. One's like, beautiful, beautiful. The other's like, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry.
Stop, make it stop.
Yeah.
Domai, Domai. So beautiful, once so very beautiful.
Should we start a madness counter in the Discord?
Oh, jeez.
No.
That's a little grim.
Oh, also we find out that Raoden was friends with Kihine.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I remember it because going back through that, like, yeah, he mentions the whole family.
Mm-hmm. Kihine,
DK.
Lukao. Mm-hmm.
It's kind of crazy because you don't see him with the group, but it seems like he was kind of their main figurehead.
Yeah.
And I like that Raoden kind of mentions it because it would be one thing if like they were all, oh, this guy was so great, you would have liked him. But the fact that Raoden also remembers them makes it so he's at their level and they have a more circular connection. It wasn't just, oh, he's our leader.
And
Yeah.
he also kind of provided them protection just by nature of being the king's son.
Well, speaking of this, let's go into the next. Do we want to go into the next chapter, which is the Serenity chapter?
Let me check my notes real quick.
Books, Raiden said with excitement.
No, I'm all ready.
Raoden, your Elend is showing.
Wait a minute.
Just imagining Scooby-Doo gang. Like they got Raoden tied up on a chair. It was just like, and it was actually Ellen.
Which shouldn't it technically be the other way around because Elantris came first?
True,
That's true.
yeah.
I
Well,
thought you were gonna
doing
say-
Elantris. We're doing Elantris second, so it's obviously our correct. We're correct.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
It's just underneath Raoden is the shining glimmer that was Ellen.
Does anybody actually know, like, the timeline if this came first or not?
Yeah, it did.
Yeah,
Elantris
Okay.
was his first published book.
2000.
Oh, but I mean, like,
It also comes first, cosmerically.
Okay. cool.
Yeah. In world.
Yeah, chronologically, In World comes first.
Good to know.
Okay, chapter 5. Dang, this feels so weird not having epigraphs to read. I'm used to having, after Hero Ages, like a whole page of an epigraph to read. Serene is surprised to see Hrathen. There are only 20 Gjorn in the entire Fjordell Empire. She and Ashe follow and listen as he addresses the king, telling him that it's time for them to join the Empire, and he and his people to convert. Iadon says that he follows Shu Korath, their god, but Hrathen says Shu Dareth is the true form of Shu Keseg. It's all very confusing. Iadon mocks Fjorda. There's so many shoes. I'm at 8.5. Iadon mocks Fjordell and its weakened empire, causing Hrathen to leave, but not before he shares a glance at Serene. Serene tells Ashe that Iadon is being foolish, and that Fjordell is more powerful now than before, thanks to its priests. To Ashe's horror, he sees that Serene has changed targets from Iadon to the Gjorn. She then explains that his speech was a test, and now Hrathen plans to overthrow Iadon, and that she must stop it. Even if Iadon himself is insufferable, Iadon notices. Even if Iadon himself is insufferable, I forgot to do a closing bracket. Iadon notices her and barks at Serene, but she pretends to be a dumb blonde, causing Ashe to snort, and Iadon goes back to ignoring her.
I love all of Serene's interactions with anyone where she's just like playing like an idiot. It's just so funny. Like, she's like, huh? What?
I thought I was supposed to be here. Oh, I want you to leave. Oh, I'll walk 5 steps to the left.
Oh, I didn't know.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I just wanted to look at the paintings. They're so beautiful.
I'm just a widow old princess from Tio. I don't know.
I'm just a 6 foot 5 princes. Honestly, it's
Finish
tough for
my
her to
knitting.
not stand out.
But it's cool though. If they're gonna treat her like that, then she may as well take advantage of it.
Sure. Smart.
Yeah.
A man suddenly grabs Sereni in a hug. It takes her and Ashley a moment, but she realizes it's Hunky K, her uncle Kiine.
Kiine is how the audiobook pronounces it.
But if you're supposed to pronounce the first 2 vowels, then it should be Kiine.
Yes, that's how it's pronounced in the graphic audio. Kiine. And it should be Aishi, by the way.
Aishi? Sorry.
I just, it's not really important, but...
Really,
I'm still trying to get used to the...
Ash on the audiobook.
I know, but because of the way they do the vowels and stuff, it should be a hard A, so A-she.
Like if you're following with all the other Aons and
Yeah,
Sheo.
exactly.
Gotcha.
Sereni remembers how he always used to bring her gifts from far-off places, and he says he doesn't have any this time, but wishes she could join him and his family. A surprising revelation since he always acted like a Bruce Wayne / Tony Stark playboy archetype. Nobody has seen or heard from him in over 10 years, and Sereni asks why he never visited. Kiine says that it's a story for another day. Break in the chapter. Anything for that half?
I like Kiine. I do.
Something about the big archetype that's just friendly.
He's just the big cuddly grizzly bear, and it's great.
He's a big teddy bear.
I love this character so much. And then he goes on to be a super family man that's also the greatest chef in the family. Deora lives in a mansion and they have kids. K-Ice. I'm gonna hate this so much. K-Ice and Dayorn. 2 little children, almost like twins. Then Lukiel. It is Lukiel, right?
Lukiel. I don't... I've heard it both ways.
Yeah.
I think Luke.
So annoying. This is the only book that has a pronunciation system.
Well, and it's hard too because not all the characters come from that country. So when you get to Rayfin and Deloff and all that, they don't follow the trend.
Yeah.
It's weird.
So all the good guys you got to do this for.
Basically, yeah. Well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. I feel like Brandon put a lot of time and energy into these names and where they come from and having that all line up. But then when you read it, you're like, oh, this is just kind of confusing.
It's very
I'm just going to read it in normal.
Yeah. I'm just going to read it in normal.
But it's cool that it's all there.
Then Lukiel, who is from Dayora's previous marriage, and his wife Jayla, Jayla,
I think, or Jala, one of those two.
Okay.
Well, she's
this is basically
just... She would say it in normal. She's Swedish.
Jala. Okay, so this is just listing off the family tree at this point. You got the 2 little kids, K-Ice and Dayorn. Then you got Lukiel, who is from Dayora's previous marriage, and his wife, Jala, and Adain. I hate this so much. Why did I pick this chapter? Adain, who is upstairs sleeping. Sereni continues to be shocked from Lukel's Fordish wife to the fact that Kiine cooks, and they all offer apologies for the loss of her fiancé/husband, and she is comforted by the fact that Raoden did seem to be a good person. Dayon comments how much he hates Jindo food as she goes to wake up the brother. I skipped a little bit there, but it's basically just, hey, here's the other sibling. Gosh, I hate the names.
You did well.
You're doing such a good job.
K-Ice berates Sereni over dinner, commenting on... I don't even know what I wrote there.
Oh, but that's such a good part. It's like my favorite part of this chapter.
It's commenting on TON body types and her inability to use Mypon sticks.
And also
She's
giving her
too
crap
T.
for being huge.
For being too tall to be a princess.
Aren't some
What do you know, little
princesses
girl?
supposed to be small and like kind and
Petite. Even though I don't know what that means.
I can't remember.
Just doesn't seem like what you are.
If it's in this chapter or the next Serenity chapter. It's in this section of chapters, but I find it funny that we find out that Chaos has a huge crush on Raoden, and this is why she's being mean to Serenity, because Serenity got to marry him.
That's so funny.
Adain mutters about numbers as Cain says Jindo food is naturally greasy and that he would have made her food when she was younger, but the chef didn't like that. I totally just bleeped on the fact Cain was Anki K for a second. I thought that was one of the siblings.
You can just say
the names
K.
are
Totally fine.
That's true, Hunky K. That'll be easier in my mind. This causes Serenity to notice there are no servants at all. Cain explains that when Elantris fell, it was because the servants revolted against their former masters. They killed any Elantrian they could find, even those related to them. And that's why we don't have any Elantrians, really, that used to exist. Ever since then, they haven't found any servants, except their kids.
Yeah.
Which I relate to that so much.
My father always used to say he only ever had a kid so he wouldn't have to cut the grass anymore.
I remember my aunt was bringing in groceries one time, and me and my brothers were around, and my mom was like, we have slaves.
Oh, jeez.
Your mom sounds awesome.
Yeah. She is. In her own way.
In her own way.
My mom always said, if we ever move back someplace where it snows, you're going to be doing the shoveling the driveway. It's like, yeah, I didn't doubt it.
Yep, been there.
Yeah. After some commentary about titles and rank, mostly relating to Serenity, Cain, and Kais. I hate K-Ice.
K-Ice.
Just pretend she's a rapper.
Aishi.
K-Ice.
Sure, that'll... Aishi returns, earning awe from the kids as they ask to play with him, remarking that there aren't as many Saiyans anymore. Serenity remembers that her mother passed, capital P, him to her as a baby. And then after some begging, Serenity teases the kids for making fun of her height, and as the table fills with laughter, Serenity finally feels like she could relax.
Oh, that's so interesting that the P in past was capitalized. Like, because giving a Sion to somebody, when you capitalize the P on that in this fantasy world, it makes me feel like there might be some sort of ceremony or something special you have to do.
Oh, it's totally like a ritual. They talk about how like they're passed from generation to generation, and there's because of the bond that there exists between. This maybe should be for the spoiler section. Sorry.
Probably.
We're dipping our toes in it without spoiling too much, so we can move on.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And spoilers doesn't necessarily mean in-world spoilers, more so just the magic system is really convoluted, and you need to know things.
Yes, and this particular one is not fully explained yet.
Yeah. Okay, but basically, this whole chapter is just, here's a place for Serena to go to relax. Here's her family.
It's her safe spot in whatever the city's name is.
Erelon.
I thought that was like the Greater Kingdom. Isn't
when the kids are teasing her.
Be Kai.
Kai.
Which means east.
The kids are teasing her, a little bubble just pops up. Serenity will remember that.
That I did not know that, Swiggity, but that is amazing, and it totally makes sense.
I was looking at all the Aeons in the back of the book, and I saw that Kai was one of them, and it means east. It's like, oh, that's the eastern city.
Oh,
it's probably the city. It's probably the city. It's probably the
eastern city, satellite city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The four main cities are north, east, south, west. Yep.
Why is that? Oh, that should be something that's like more like included in the story. I feel like. But I digress.
I mean, they have them at the north, east, southwest points, so.
Is there a map?
And they all speak specifically
Yes,
the language.
there is a map.
Yeah. Anything else for chapter?
Oh, there is.
Anything else for chapter 5?
I didn't have a whole lot. This chapter sets up stuff that happens in my chapter. I guess it was a pretty fun one of just everyone like getting to know each other, and it was like kind of cute and all that.
Yeah.
But as far as notes go, didn't have much.
As annoying as like the names are to pronounce, I do greatly love all these characters. They're so.
You did a great job.
Yeah, it's another
like,
setup. It's a setup chapter, telling
Yep.
us who are these characters.
and like they're all very distinctly their own characters. Like
Yes.
Cain is like the kind grizzly archetype, and used to be the playboy character, and he's got two little twins that
are not
has-
twins.
that are not twins, but one has like learned a 5th language to swear in.
That are
Right.
not twins, even though they look like twins.
Yeah.
But Daorn is younger than K-Ice.
I'm sure she'll never let up on that fact.
I suppose it's my turn, isn't it?
Yep.
I get the happiest chapter in the section because it's all about Hooray-thon!
Oh, jeez.
That's gonna be the meme for this book, I think.
Oh, great.
Great
I
thing.
even spelled it in my notes. Hooray-thon! But only the first time. So, my notes are a little bit kind of condensed because they do get a little bit sort of chit-chatty, and it doesn't really add a ton to what's going on. So I kind of abbreviated a little more than I might have otherwise. So the chapter starts out with Hrathen and Delof talking about the next steps of their plans and what they want to do, and just kind of debating how Yadeth works his will and how there's no hope for the king converting and saving lives. They move on to
What's our plan for tonight, Pinky?
Try to take over the world. Oh, God,
Kaka
now I can't
Shukisik.
unsee that. Oh, forever. Every time Delof speaks, it's gonna be... Or every time Hrathen speaks, it's gonna be... Narf!
North! Just a mouse in red armor.
Oh, man. So they move on to Hrathen asking about the woman in black with the yellow sash, and Delof, says, "Oh, that's the wife of the dead prince, and because of their contract, she's stuck being married to him, even though they never even actually got married and had a ceremony or anything." And he also mentions that she's Teoish. And Hrathen notes, "Oh, well, that's a problem because now there's a blood bond between the two nations, and if we're not careful, we may end up having to fight both of them at the same time." Which, that would be a
And Delof has like a huge grudge against her for that.
Yeah, Delof absolutely hates the Teo. He is not down with them at all because they are fervent followers of the opposite Shu. Yeah.
Shukora.
If Delof is left Shu, they are right Shu.
Shu Dareth is Hrathen. Shu Korath is Sereni.
Okay.
Yes.
And because they are the opposite branch of Shu Kessig, they are the enemy. So he's like especially bitter against them, which is kind of like yet one more early glimmer into exactly how spiteful and bitter this little like troll of a man is. He's just like every time he's on scene, I picture him going, "Yes, and we are going to destroy the Tailish and Elantrians, yes." And then Yada, yes.
Yes, master, yes.
Right? Somewhere between Igor and Yoda, just yes, and it would come.
The filthy Elantrians will never know.
Isn't he also being like racist? What if she was actually like a follower of Shu?
Right, Shu.
Dira?
Yeah, Shu Dareth, and like he's just judging her on the fact like, oh, she's Teo.
Well, that's another example of why racism is dumb.
But I mean, yeah.
But she
true.
is,
But
so.
she
But
is a
I
follower
think-
of Shukor, so like.
Yeah,
That
so, like,
highlights
In the,
the
end,
key
we all
difference.
follow Shu Kesig. Can't we all just get along?
But like that's the difference between Hrathen and Dilof, right? Hrathen, he's pragmatic. If she wanted to come over, he could see the value in her, and he'd probably put some use to it. But Dilof, I don't know.
He just
couldn't see
wants to
past
like
it.
lash out and make a scene and fire and brimstone. You know.
Yep.
He just wants to
He's like
set
the-
a fire to anything not of his faith, while Hrathen wants to control the fire.
Right. He wants to like target it and like use it as a way to bring people together under Yadeth's banner, so to speak.
I think he almost sees it as a mercy to them.
Oh, for sure, Rathan does. He's trying to save lives. He's trying to save people. He is the nicest bad guy at this point, like ever, right?
Yep.
Dilof views it as punishment.
Yes, and it kind of makes you like wonder who the real bad guy is. But anyway, so Rathan says he's going to teach Dilof a very important lesson, and Dilof is like, "Oh, and what's that?" He's like, "I'm going to show you how to destroy a nation." And Dilof is all like, "Ooh, you have my undivided attention." He's practically
First
like
things
drooling
first, we
over
got-
the idea. He's like, "Yes, please."
Yes.
And Rathan's
First things first.
Useful.
First things first. We go to Cleveland. We find this old Nazi, this old Russian who has a red book. Then we read the book from the Winter Soldier, and then he tells us to go to this one Arctic base, and there we find a group of super soldiers, and then we got to redo the whole other step to make them all brainwash, and then we can destroy the nation.
What?
He's talking about the plot of the Winter Soldier movie.
Civil
Oh,
War.
I don't think I ever watched that one. I'm just saying, in Captain America: Civil War, Captain America was the bad guy. Fight me. So, at this point, where was I? We show him how to destroy nation, practically. So Hrathen has Dilof take him up to the Elantrian walls so they can like look down and kind of like have a real good look around, and it'll also make it easier for Hrathen to make his next point, which is that here are these horrible wretches, and the whole city is completely indefensible. Like, these walls are pointing the wrong way, for crying out loud. Like, if they tried to hide in there, they'd be trapped, and they don't really have archers, and this is just terrible defensively. Like, what were they thinking? And then he looks back, and Dilof is, like, fuming, right? Like, he's got literal vapors coming out his ears, and he's like, "Oh, what's them precious? What's them?" As he's, like, looking down the walls at the Elantrians.
Foam dripping out of his mouth.
Yeah, he's just, like, frothing. He's like, "So evil." So, and he actually says that out loud, and Rathan's like, "Why don't you tell me why you hate them so much?" And they kind of go back down to Hrathen's rooms, and he's like, "Why do you hate them so much? Tell me about them." He's like, "They're evil, they are wicked." And Hrathen's like, "If you won't give me answers that are useful and have information, then we're not doing anything valuable here, and you can go away." And so he like calms himself down, and he explains, kind of like what happened, why he hates them, and they
Which isn't really
false.
even like a real reason. Like,
Yeah, it's totally. He's like, they lied to us. They were false, evil, nasty Elantrians. Yes, Delof is now Smeagol.
They were giving us a bunch of free stuff and healing all our wounds and being
Right.
super cool, and then one day they stopped doing that. So
And it turned
screw
out
'em.
to be a
That's
total
dumb.
lie.
Yeah, but
and
I
then,
didn't believe in him even before then. So yeah.
and they debate a little bit about whether the Elantrians ever actually had power, and Hrathen's like, aha! Even if they didn't have power, or they must have had power, because even if they didn't, how do you explain the transformations? And Delof's like, I don't know.
Curse. Divine retribution.
Smoke and mirrors, master.
Yeah. So Hrathen suggests that maybe they're not gods, but maybe they are supernatural, and Delof is like, blasphemer! And Hrathen's like, no, there is another supernatural being, and he's like, Sfrakus? And Hrathen's like, yes, Sfrakus. And they explain what that is. It's basically an evil, angry spirit that died and now can take over the souls of, or the bodies of evil men. They're kind of the Yadethian, Shukarithian demons.
Shudareth.
Derethian. Yeah, Derethian, I like that. Demons. And if they can paint the Elantrians as demons, instead of pitying them, the people will grow to hate them. And nothing brings people together like hate. Let me tell you. So that's kind of like the culmination of all their little like planning and plotting. They're like, aha, the step one in taking over a nation. Give them something to hate.
Why'd you turn into Uncle Iroh there?
I don't know. I didn't really do that intentionally. Any similarities to any person living or dead is purely coincidental and unintentional.
Or fictional.
Yes, or
This
fictional.
podcast was produced by a multicultural team of very religious beliefs, and it's a historical work of fiction. Whatever they say at the beginning of Assassin's Creed.
Yeah. See, I was going off of Clerks, the animated series. So.
You know, my girlfriend just watched Clerks 2,
Yeah.
and I have nothing more to say about that.
Okay.
There was some revelation she had. She was like, "Did you know this person's in Clerks 2?" But I can't remember who it is, so I'm just trying to move on at this point.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, it's cool. That's fair.
For a brief moment, Hrathen turned into Spock for me when he's like, the connection is logical.
Yeah. The connection is logical. I can hear him saying it in the graphic audio version. He has a vaguely, Eastern European accent, and so whenever I hear his quotes, I hear that voice. It is logical.
I am loving the audiobook reading of Hrathen's lines. He has this voice that is so commanding and self-righteous that it's particularly that line, the connection is logical. Like, it's just perfect. I'm digging it. The voice actor is hit and miss on some things, but for Hrathen, it's just like the perfect match.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of him doing Galadon, but his Hrathen is
Yeah, cool.
better.
Sweet.
Galadon's super goofy.
Yeah. The first time I heard him say Suli, I just about imploded. I'm like,
So I guess like The difference. Okay, the big thing in this chapter is that Hrathen, d- does he believe what he's preaching, or is he really just trying to save these people? Does he believe it, but just not as much as Dilaf?
You know, that is an excellent observation. It really is kind of what he actually believes is very, very secondary to what he's doing here.
What he's inspiring. And
In
like the
his,
line
in,
of sorry.
I was just saying, in his own mind, it's very clear that he has accepted this doctrine and he is working within it as a set of guidelines and rules. And whether he's faithful or not is secondary to him. That is, he has chosen this path and he is going to walk it the best he damn well can. You know?
Skybreaker.
I would even say like his
Yes.
line about like the connection is logical shows that characterizing because it's not that connection is believable. It's not an act of belief. It's logic. Somebody could stop and make that connection, but they can't believe it. But I suppose in his mind, he's implying that logic leads to belief.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. It almost seems like the the things that Dilaf does and says are like the exact kind of things that Hrathen opposes. Like he obviously is fully into this religion and is doing everything he can to uphold it, but like he is coming at it from this approach of like, if we ever throw our logistics to the side, then there's only danger that we can do at that point. And like we can kind of see it later in my chapter when actually it's the chapter after where he's trying to like convince some people, and one of them changes his mind too quickly. I think it's chapter 9. I accidentally read a little ahead. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is like this is like really hard to read sometimes because you don't know whether to root for this guy or not.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember thinking that the first time I read it too. I was like, man, this guy's set up to be the bad guy, but he's not really a bad guy.
Just
right?
because you are a bad guy does not make you bad guy.
Thanks, Satan.
Got that reference. I'm so happy.
I love that movie.
It's a great movie.
I recognize that quote, but I couldn't remember what it was from.
It's from Wreck-It Ralph.
That's awesome.
It's like Kay got it. I saw it.
And it was actually Zangief who said that. Satan said something else, but I can't remember what it was.
I don't. The important line is that line.
Right.
Okay, anything else for chapter 6?
Oh, was it?
Okay. Chapter 7. Here I go again. Luckily, it's only like 3 characters.
Again on my own.
See, that wasn't what I thought. I thought it was, here I go again. My.
Oh, no. We don't do ABBA in here. No.
Why not?
Because it's ABBA.
So?
Abe.
No. Ew.
With only a finger, Raoden is able to bring the Aeons to life. He draws Aeon Ashy light, but when he finishes it, the magical glyph sputters and fades. The magic of the Elantrians was a simple secret that could be called upon with no spells or sacrifices. Raoden remembers a time when he broke his leg and was put under Elantrian/Aeon care. It was healed in minutes. And as long as one knew the Aeon's effect and could draw them correctly, any Elantrian, pre or post Hoed, could use Aeon Door. Raoden draws his namesake Aeon Rao, but nothing happens either. but nothing happens to. Wow, that is grammatically weird. Galadon says that it was the loss of Aeons that truly doomed Elantris. He continues to be pessimistic, but does admit that he brought Raoden here to help read his books faster. The Aeons were everything, and that is why there are no furnaces, light sources, and just a single well, because the Aeons did everything else.
The
That's it.
Aeons were life.
Magic is life.
Magic is life. It was the soul of Elantris. The Aeons were.
There's
And
something.
without them, Elantris is dying.
He's undying. After that, post
No,
dying.
it's in the process of dying. The city.
They're all
Unalive.
zombies.
But no, the city itself. Like, not the people. The city itself is like dying. It's crumbling. It's falling apart.
It's true.
But that's what a walker does. Okay.
What?
The thing I really like about this setting, and like the Hoed and the Sheod and all of that, not the Hoed, the Sheod, is the fact like there's always like some tale, even in like Earth history, that long ago people had like amazing technological advances or magic or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think like I saw recently the Library of Alexandria, there was like an actual engine for a steam engine, a schematic for a steam engine that could be found in the Library of Alexandria. I don't know how we know that, but that blows my mind. And like always like something happens to them. Like the magic of the elders fades or these people
The
vanish.
library burns down.
The library burns down. But you never see those events happen. We're seeing it in real time, the loss of knowledge. And that's so fascinating to me. Like we are in that moment.
Yeah.
Well,
like
it's
they're
crazy.
eating the books.
I've been thinking about that a lot lately. Like, one of my favorite, like, online outlets just got trashed. Basically, they were owned by GameStop. It was Game Informer, like the magazine.
Mm.
Their website got basically canned. Like, if you try to go to any of the pages now, it redirects you to this one page with this like image that's just saying goodbye, basically. So you have 33 years of articles and videos and interviews and information that is just unreachable, like, unless you use the Wayback Machine or whatever. But it just made me think, like, you know, all this stuff, all this work, all this cataloging, the Coppermind. Does somebody have a written version of the Coppermind somewhere?
There is, I don't know about the Coppermind, but do you guys know the Watchtower database?
What's that?
It's a Justice League / Justice League Unlimited and like all the DC animated universe, Superman, the animated series, Batman, the animated series, and all of that. There was a website back in the olden days of like the early 2000s. Well, talked about that, the olden days, the
You make me feel
early
old,
internet
though.
age. And the website is long since gone, but they actually have printed off every single page. And I'm like, holy, this is like the kind of person who prints a fanfic to read it physically.
And yet, I'd rather have it than not for some
Yeah.
stuff.
Mhm.
Pulling Galadin along, Raoden returns to the square and notices a commotion. Egyorn, Hrathen, seems to be yelling about them, but he's too far away to hear. Raoden comments that many people still hope for and fear the Elantrians' return. He then asks Galadin how likely someone would be thrown into Elantris today. Very likely, it would seem. An older man is pushed inside. Before he could choose what direction to take, what gang to be by, Raoden runs over and pretends to know him. Why I wrote prepares.
No, he chooses. He takes a step towards Sheor's men.
That's true.
It's not super important though because
I know.
He says, "Come with me if you want to live."
Yeah.
Just come with me if you want to live, and starts running. The man, That's supposed to be then Galadon, but it says the Galadon. So the man, the Galadon, quickly follow, with Sheor's men needing a moment to compute before also doing so. Raoden leads them to a building that they saw the other day and up to its roof. Before Sheo's men can follow, he destroys the stairs. Galadon asks why he did that and why he's now trapped them on a roof. Galadon simply remarks that he has a plan. He takes some stuff from the basket and internally tells himself to keep working and to ignore the pain. The man they saved was a jeweler and a named Marishi. Marish?
Narishi is it's how the audiobooks pronounce it.
Marishi. I kind of stopped questioning myself. I get it right first time, typically. But after some criticism from Galadon, he claims to be a craftsman of many things. Raoden tells him they need shoes, one that fit perfectly and not blister on the first try. Morishi says he can and asks for his name. Spirit, Raoden answers, and as Galadon comments that Sheor's men is still below, Raoden says, well, it can't get any worse than this. And then it starts to rain.
He's like, he said the one thing you should never say ever.
Like he looks up, he's like, man, it's such a nice day, and I can almost like see the thunder, the obvious thunderclap, the sudden downpour, and just like holding up like a shush finger to Galadon.
And Galadon goes, fantastic. I'm enjoying myself already. So good. Galadon's sarcasm is off the charts.
At this point, I feel like Galadon's regretting a little bit helping him out that first day.
He like keeps waking up because Raoden keeps doing circles in the air. Like, oh my god.
Just keep trying.
But honestly, short little chapter, Raoden's got plans and schemes.
Yep.
Yes.
Chapter 8.
Chapter 8. That was me. So, chapter 8 kind of starts out with Serene in the King's Court again. She's decided not to live with Hunky K, despite him saying she can, which is a big thing because it's basically her choosing not to back down. It's basically her saying, even though there is a safe place and allies for me here, I'm still going to stay in the hot seat because that's where the action's happening. And to the point of her literally showing up in the King's Court with an easel and paint, acting like she's just painting the flowers.
I love this part.
They're flowers!
It's like, isn't that a horse?
Oh, man.
I'm painting your paintings, Father.
You're painting my what?
Well, they look so beautiful. I thought I would try. Don't give up your day job.
And he was like, not in the
Right.
middle of my courtroom. So she moves to the side of the courtroom.
Side.
I'm not in the middle.
Yeah, not in the middle. He's just like, oh my god. just like, I'm just gonna leave it.
And through some mixture of his just patriarchy brain and her convincing acting, he's like, whatever, and just continues on as if she's not there.
I have to wonder, is she really convincing? Does anybody else believe it, or is it just Iodine?
I think
don't
other
know.
people believe her act as well.
That's
Like-
true, because we do see her thing with Harathan a bit.
Yeah.
Like, but anybody who she like had dinner with last night probably wouldn't buy it because they know what she's actually like.
Right.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, one of those comes up, and it turns out to be Luke Hell, who, if you don't remember, is like Iodon's son. He's kind of a business type as
Not
well.
Iodon's son.
Not Iodine, so.
Kian.
Kian. My bad. Meant to say that. And he comes up right as the king, whose name is Iodon, is hearing a case where basically a servant escapes and was captured by another noble who he stayed with and eventually had kids, and now they're trying to decide, well, did the kids belong to noble A or noble B. Which is,
I know this one. Cut the baby in half.
Well
I'm
done.
gonna say this is horrible, but you were like, hold my beer.
It's the Ten of Solomon.
Yes.
So the fact that this is even being tried like blows Sereni's mind. And also they refer to the servant as a slave, which she and Ash comment is outlawed. So their confusion is answered by Lukel when he explains that it's not technically a slave, but ever since Iodon came to power, things have been going worse and worse for people that don't have money, to the point where they're basically serfs. And it's interesting to note that in Fjordell, like ancient Fjordell, this kind of used to be a thing, but modern day Fjordell doesn't even do this. So it's a bad situation in Kai, especially when you consider that 10 years ago they had Elantrians giving them free crap and healing them.
Yeah, I would say, and this was not the case 10 years ago.
Yeah, I wish I never cut you off.
They had free healthcare.
What's important here too is kind of like their disbelief in all this, and so Lukel decides to give them a history lesson and explains that, you know, back in the day when all that free stuff was getting doled out and all those healings were happening, it was kind of impossible for anyone to make money around Elantris because no one would buy something they could get for free. So the merchants, who were an autonomous organization outside of the Elantrians, the only way they could make money is by making a deal with them. So from now on, Elantris only gives away basic stuff for free. And this created a situation where all the cities around it were basically selling like higher and higher end goods. And that made it so that when Elantris finally fell, like you just had these uber wealthy people and then the people that used to rely on them. And since Iodon was at the top of that pyramid, he basically became king out of sheer monetary value and people's allegiance to the fact that the merchants never really went along with the Elantrians. They were always their own thing. So, long-winded explanation, but if you don't understand it by now,
reread the chapter.
Iodon became king because he has money.
He has that green.
And he
beat the socialists back.
And it was pretty much nothing else.
Yeah.
And they also don't think he's going to last very long. Also important to notice that individual landholding was canceled. So that basically means you have to rely on the government, which is also just the economy. So after the meeting, they end up going back to the Kiein's house. Sorry, I couldn't remember his name. And over the meal, they kind of like talk about, well, there's a funny scene where they're talking about how Sereni has been like studying this alternative form of art where she's subverting expectations. And they also kind of talk about how Reread was like the figurehead of their group. Everyone who would meet at Kiein's house, he was the one who was coming up with plans, and he was the one visiting outer estates and coming back and talking about the situation there. And he was the one showing up in court and, you know, giving Iodon the business, keeping him honest to the best of his abilities until he eventually had the Reread happen to him. I'm kind of skim through here to get to the more important parts because I feel like I'm taking a while, but
it's a long chapter.
Short,
yeah.
It is. Oh my god.
It's like over an hour in the audiobook. Like, it's a long chapter.
It was long, and I was trying to really like key in what was important on it too. But basically, besides learning that K-Ice can speak like 7 languages, they are asked to take Serene to Elantris, to the wall. And upon getting there, they see our friend Hrathen doing his thing, shouting angrily about how the Elantrans are just basic animals. And Serene decides this is her time to make her move. So, employing her dumb blonde act, she perfectly interrupts him right at the break when he's saying that, oh, these Elantrians are nothing but base animals and their basic instincts. And she just asks the perfect, simple question of why. At the exact moment to where it needs to be answered. And Hrathen stumbles and, without getting into the whole argument, she basically has this... She has this knowledge of the religious doctrine, but she presents it in a way like she doesn't, to make it seem like all the questions she's asking are just the ones she thought of on the spot. But they're all like perfect little scalpels to just like cut his arguments to shreds. And he eventually realizes that he's just losing the crowd and gives up.
Doesn't Mr. Jadeth like ambition?
Oh, yeah. I love that she calls it Mr. Jadeth every time. Like, it's like, instead of, and every time he hears it, he's like, Lord Jadeth. Like,
I could almost like imagine if like you're going to like a sermon. Okay, Catholic me. If I'm going to a sermon, some guy stand. What about Mr. Christ or Mr. Jesus? Just gotta compute that for a bit.
So it was also kind of creepy how Hrathen almost like had a little bit of respect, like, all right, well played. But Dilaf was just, I will kill you. I will destroy you. Like his eyes.
He's like vibrating.
That's just how Dilaf is. Like,
so he is.
Vibrating with rage.
Spent a lot of time in detention as a kid.
He's like making the throat cutting motion at her. He's like,
it's on sight. Then she sees a Seoned, and she grows a little bit sad thinking about how Seons of Elantrians are kind of mad now. And K-Ice and what's the other kid's name? Starts with a D.
Daorn.
Thank you. K-Ice and Daorn are trying to convince her that they're dead. And as she's kind of sorrowing over this, she looks down and sees 2 or 3 Elantrians sitting on a rooftop.
Three Elantrians sitting on a rooftop.
One's very grumpy, the other one seems very postural. One looks up to the heavens, is like, let's kick it, and then a thunderclap happens, and there's a cloud just over them.
And she thinks, I wonder what those boys are up to.
She's like, they don't look very dead.
So observant.
But I did like this chapter because it's tying everything together. We're on chapter 8, and all 3 of our POV characters are on the page in this one page, technically.
True.
We see her fighting off Hrathen in her own way, and I like this chapter. I thought it was cool.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple of things I really liked. I liked how when she's talking with Laquelle.
Lukiel.
Lukiel.
The not brother.
Yes, the not son brother. She asks like, "What was Reread like?" And like he lists off like a few things, and there's one where he's like, and he knew every Aeonic could draw them well. Almost like he would need to draw like a perfect circle whenever he needed to. We also Is this the first time we learned that Sereni suggested the marriage, or did we learn that in the first 3 chapters?
I think we learned that in the first Sereni chapter.
Yeah, when she was talking to her father in the first or second Sereni chapter.
And
Besides,
then...
it was my idea, Father.
Yeah.
Possibly.
She has a very unfortunate voice in the graphic audio version.
And I do have a little bit of qualm about, like, okay, I love the whole Mr. Jadev and, like, breaking apart the religion as, like, a funny bit, but on the other hand, I don't want somebody mocking religion. So it's this weird little gray area for me where, like, this is completely funny, and it's
But she's
and
not.
it's the bad guy.
I wouldn't say that she's mocking it, though. Like,
The Mr. Jadev is a bit of a mock.
that's.
It's a funny mock.
Well, it could be a mock, but I think the way she's using it is to try to display ignorance more so than to take it down a peg.
True, and I'm not saying this as if somebody were to come to attack. I went to a mass one time, and the priest was commenting on other religions, and he was like breaking them down to their base beliefs and sort of critiquing them. And I was like, even then, I was like, this is my own religion. I find this wrong, because what somebody can come to our religion just be like, so if a mass murderer comes to a priest, asks for forgiveness, he goes to heaven. I'm like, no, there are other details to that. And I'm like, there are other details to other religions, and to break it down into the core tenets is wrong to me.
It is interesting that, like, our generation has the least religious kind of battling going on in a very long time. Human history, this has been a huge part of people's lives and historical movements and motivations for the way people lived. And even if you're religious today, you're not going to have the same impact as it was in the past. So I like how it's presented in this book in that way.
Those are all my notes for this chapter.
Like in Mistborn, you have like 1,000 religions, but they're none of them are interacting with each other. You know?
True.
Well, they're all extinct except for one.
And even in Stormlight, like there's a bunch of religions, but those are it's more just the history of the world, even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else for this chapter set?
No.
Okay.
Not that comes to mind.
Okay, give me a second to...
Spoilers.
Spoilers coming up. Next time we're going to be continuing part 1. We're going to be covering chapters 9 through 13. Nobody has claimed any of those yet, but it is time to head into the spoiler realm. So if you have not finished this book, the entire series, or potentially the entire Cosmere, then we recommend that you stop here, because it is likely that we will talk about everything and anything. If you are up to date, feel free to stick around, because it is likely that we will bring up details you may have missed, or plot threads still yet to come. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, star, heart, or whatever it is on this podcast, and don't be afraid to comment your own thoughts and predictions. You can find us at cosmereconnectionspod@gmail.com, at @CConnectionsPod on Twitter, X, and we even have our own Facebook group. We would love to hear from you. But if this is where we must part, then my name is ReaderWarrior, and I have been joined by Swiggity Swoo.
The realist school is not the same as the neo-representational school.
John.
Hunky K!
And Kay.
Have a good one.
And don't forget, there's always another connection. And we're back! Spoilers! Okay. Chapter 4.
I mean, there's not much other than the fact that, what's her face, Karada is breaking into the palace to try to go see her son, which is really sad.
It wasn't a spoiler until you gave the reason, because before that it was just foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Okay. Did we talk about this in last spoiler section? About who do we think the Shadow takes and why?
No. And I've thought about it before, and it has to be something that's programmed into the Elantris Aeon. Right?
Yeah.
It's got to be like every, 150th baby or something like that.
I think it has to do with the intent of devotion, how it seeks people who have a large amount of devotion inside of them. And look at all the people like our picks do tend to be devotion. Like Raoden is very devoted to his people. Karada is very devoted to her family. Galadin
What
also.
about the girl with the wig?
She's very devoted to her wig. She could have been very devoted to her dad. This is my theory.
Yeah, I'm not sold. Not convinced. Keep working on it.
It can't be like something. Granted, it had to be because we do have the Hoyd thing, where it's like you have to be invited. So they could have programmed it into. But that implies like nobody before then came to be by accident an Elantrian.
Yeah.
Then did at some point they make a change in it? Or were they all like at last minute they're like, we have to continue the Elantrian legacy and like add a timer every 66th rotation of the planet?
We don't know.
Things we don't know. Yes.
The problem with Elantris is we know the glyph of the city is what's causing the Reread, right? Or the Shaod.
Yes.
And in order to be
wait.
an Elantrian,
Yes.
you have to be taken by the Shaod. So who made the first glyph? The first Aeon, right? That's the big question mark.
Do we know that actually that's causing the Shaod, or do we just know that's allowing Aeon door in for the Aeons?
Well, yeah, we kind of do because it's incomplete until Raoden fixes it. So therefore, the transformation is still incomplete. It's missing that piece of information or whatever. The Aeonic magic has very strong similarities to programming in that it does what you tell it to do, right?
Yeah.
You're building a circuit. So that's the big problem. Like, who was the first Elantrian to make the big, Aeon to turn other people into Elantrians?
Yeah.
Probably. I wanted to say Shukisig, but I'm not sure. Is that Jadith? Like, I'm losing track.
Yadith was originally, and there's little kind of sort of like niggling hints of it in the book, but you had to go outside of the book to learn this. Originally,
there's
like a minor god of the earth.
So there's like Shu Kessig, and then they split that into Shu
Direth and Shu Korath.
Yes, and Jadeth was like a disciple. Wasn't he a disciple of Shu Korath?
Let me look it up.
This book does not do very like. I understand what Bram's doing, but like sometimes there's too much religion.
And you guys have you guys heard in like Jadith is supposed to be like an avatar of autonomy.
Yeah,
Well, that was
that's
Wern, I thought.
Was that Wern?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wern.
and that's why I have a comment on Jadith allows for ambition in chapter
I'm glad
6.
you brought that up because when you said that, I was so proud because I heard that today. Like
And
we
you
were
heard
listening to
capital
it.
A ambition?
Yeah, and I immediately started thinking, is that another shard? Are they working together? What does this mean?
Yup.
Every
Should
time I'm listening to the audiobooks, I'm always asking the question whenever I hear the name of a shard. I'm like, capital A or little a?
or little a. Okay, we've got Shayor, that's the little girl, and she comes from Aeon Seo, which is either intelligence, which is intelligence, or she comes from Aeon Shio, meaning death.
So Korath and Dareth were the two
The two
disciples.
Okay.
Yeah, of Kessig.
Where does Mr. Giadath come in?
So, it was Korra and Death. What was the other one?
Korath and Dareth.
Dareth, right. So that's how you get
Mm-hmm.
Shu Korath and
Shu
the
Dareth.
Shu Dareth. Okay. So there's the Karathi and the Darethi, but they both worship Shu Kizig in different ways because they're different disciples.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Think
Okay.
Catholics versus Protestants, kind of.
Yeah.
Or, well, Lutherans, really, versus Catholics.
Yeah.
By the end of this, we're gonna know them like the back of our hands.
Maybe.
Or just like
This is
the people who say Jesus will punish those, and the people who say Jesus will love and forgive those.
I don't understand the former. Jesus didn't punish anybody.
Exactly, but apparently that's been construed as, oh, Jesus will, burn all of them in hell. Because, he's standing there with a pitchfork next to Satan. I don't get it. Magic no longer sustains Elantris. That's why it's all crumbling, because the magic was everywhere.
Yep.
I would like to petition that the beautiful guy who is a former Elantrin, we name him Glenn, in honor of my continuation of the Walking Dead names.
Wait, what? Which guy? What?
The,
What are
What are you talking about?
the one who's like so beautiful, so beautiful. The one who was
the
an
Hoid
Elantrin.
who's like...
The Hoid.
Once so beautiful.
Yes.
It was so beautiful.
Once.
I will refer to him as Glenn.
Merciful Domai.
Okay, and I have this brief little question. Do you think when Aona and Sky, whatever,
Sky.
Devotion and Dominion, Devotion and Dominion were like creating the magic system and like making all these terms, they're like, hey, screw with Hoid? We named this thing after him.
Maybe. Because he was at the breaking, so they knew him.
Exactly.
It's very unlikely due to the fact that that Aeona and Sky were shattered very soon after they came to the planet. Like they weren't on the planet for very long before Odium came and shattered them.
And the language is probably already pretty well established.
I'm just finding the language of like Hoid and Hoe being so similar that it has to.
I mean, in one of the Stormlight books, Hoid says that he stole his name from someone he should have loved.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
One of my oldest aliases, Hoid, may have come from a former master. So, I mean, his name is from something.
That he said that he
someone
took it
he should
from.
Have loved.
Mm-hmm. Okay. From his sister.
Okay. Galadon knows all the information about Elantris because his father was an Elantrin and used to come here. and that the place they keep returning to was his father's house.
Hmm.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's his dad's house. That's why he knew where it was and what was there.
That's why he says. That's why he seems to know everything about
A
Elantris,
lot.
even though he's only been there. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, because his dad
And
was an Elantrian, so he lived in Elantris.
I remember there was something about that, but I couldn't remember exactly what.
okay. Then there's Karada's being protective of the children. Okay, I realize this might put us on a long-winded tangent. Remind me what the point of the well is again.
The well was originally put in place there because the Elantrians didn't really believe themselves to be gods, so to speak, but they allowed other religions who had ceremonies that required water drawn from moving body of water, i.e., a river. So the well goes down into the river for religious rites for other
Oh,
religions.
I thought the well was tied into the Aeon.
No,
Mm-mm. No,
Okay, where was I
no.
getting that from?
don't know.
Okay.
Well,
Um,
the chasm line does go near the well
yeah.
when they finally learn to do that. So.
I think it's also that the well is the dot in the center of the city.
Yeah. Think.
That's what
Maybe.
it is for the Aeon.
And so, like, how well drawn or how that drawn?
Yeah,
How
because
precise.
Yeah. And like, so you can build something that represents the line. So as long as it looks like an Aeon from a specific angle, the Aeon will activate.
This bugs me slightly. Right. So as they're building Aeons in the basement, and they, if they make a line too thick or too short or whatever, it fizzles, right? Or it has a really, really diminished effect. Yet Raoden can drag a stick through the dirt to draw the chasm line in an Aeon the size of a giant freaking city.
Yeah, kind of does me too.
I don't. Mm,
And also, like, you know those cool 3D effects where if you line up like a row of pictures and it makes one image?
yeah.
What if you do that with like Aeons? Would it activate?
It's all
I
about
don't know.
intent. It's also
I
all
don't know.
about intent. Like, if you're intending for that to happen, I think maybe that it might be able to work.
Would it
'Cause
only work when somebody lines it up to see it though? That could be a cool booby trap though.
Like
but
an
I mean,
Aeonic telescope, like Raoden makes, like at the end of the book.
Yeah. I'm more. Did you see Metro the Megamind?
Yeah.
You know the scene when the girl steps out onto her balcony and sees all the papers form Titan,
Yes.
and like it spells out Titan, and like you can see like him, an image of
This
him.
is a classic video game puzzle, right? You have to find the
It
perfect
kind of
angle
is.
to align. Like, oh, it makes the symbol, and oh, okay.
Or like in Resident Evil Village, how you have to spin the thing in the light to make
Yeah,
the
I never played
specific
that one.
image.
Not a big fan of Resident Evil.
Yeah, me neither. I watch multiplayer. But like, would it only work if somebody's looking at an Aeon? Or
I like what
well,
Kay said. The intent.
yeah, but
and
like,
and it would only be an Elantrian who would be able to activate it, and I think you have to physically touch it for you to be able to activate it. Like, I don't think that
ah,
you
that's
like.
true.
I think there has to be some sort of like, if it's something drawn, if it's an Aeon that's drawn on something, I think there has to be physical contact to that in order for the Aeon to
Which in,
activate.
which implies like a sort of giving of investiture from a body to the Aeon to make it happen. Then
It's a.
okay,
I
we
think
should
it's a
move on.
connection thing, right? Because the Elantrian is connected to the door through the big Aeon, right? So when they choose to with intent make a glyph, they can draw the thing in the air, right?
Yeah.
Because like if he's just pointing, he doesn't make the glowing lines.
Yeah. Okay. Chapter 5. Remember when this was going to be quick?
All your fault.
I take total blame for it. The only thing
K-Ice, our future ghost blood.
Yeah.
Yep, I got that, as well as what's his name? Adian. Adian is an Elantria.
Yes, he's Elantrian.
But
Wait.
he's also
Yeah.
sorry.
Code names?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh my goodness.
she's codenames are stupid.
Oh, it all makes sense. Oh my god.
Because there are like 2 lines in Lost Metal where like she actually learned the language and didn't rely on connection, as well as she has a brother who's good at counting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my
Which is where I
gosh.
went, duh, no way.
In which I did not catch that at all, and I was just like, so in the vast, Cosmere of like multiple planets, this one character. There's only one character who has a brother that likes to count.
Wait, I thought this happened before Mistborn Era 1.
Oh, it
It
does
did.
well before.
It does.
So she's old.
Yes.
In Mistborn Era 2, yes, she is
Oh,
old.
any Cosmere character has the potential to be immortal because they're a main
Yeah.
character.
Wow,
Which
that's
is really
good
just-
plot armor.
Think about it, huh?
It's so good it protects you from aging.
I do want to say, Idain, I really like because he reminds me of my brother who is autistic, and he reminds me purely of an autistic character. And like for him to
So-
be sitting at that table and mumbling, I thought nothing of it.
Yeah. He is an autistic character, but Sanderson has said that he doesn't like his depiction of autism in Aiden
I've heard that too.
because it is very stereotypical.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he didn't really put a lot of research into it.
Yeah, he's even gone so far as to apologize for it.
Yeah.
I remember it being stereotypical, and I believe we live in a world nowadays where stereotypes can be harmful. But back in 2005, to
Yeah.
make a notion that this is that character, you did sometimes have to rely on stereotypes. And it's also, we're comparing a modern day autistic child person to somebody who does not have any of the care that we now give them. And like nowadays, my brother will be on his iPad for literally all day, and he'll like repeat things he sees or like run around and hundreds of other things. But like back then, no iPad, no speech therapy, no special needs school. I don't know why I'm defending it. I don't know.
You're the only one on this podcast who can, so thank you.
I'm the
for
only
that.
one with an actual connect. I'm the one who should be outraged.
I have a nephew who's on the spectrum.
Ah,
Yeah. One of my best friends is also on the spectrum. So,
Well, I didn't know that.
yep.
I don't know whether to say I'm sorry or congratulations.
It's just a thing. It's just a fact
Yeah.
of life.
Yep.
You know.
It
Yeah.
is.
I'm sorry for assuming. Anyways.
It's all good.
Yeah, you're good.
Chapter the next.
Chapter 6. So that's the one where Yadeth
Yeah.
allows for ambition.
Less spoilery, more foreshadowy, really.
Yeah.
This chapter
But-
is
Yeah.
a lot of kind of exposition and
You get a lot of Deloff being angry and sort of hints on why.
yeah.
Yeah. I find it ironic that he's like, "Ooh, let me teach you how to overthrow a city," when it's like, didn't Deloth teach you? But okay.
Well, no, because Hrathen already overthrew one city.
True.
Yeah, violently.
Like, yeah,
Very
he's
bloodily.
trying to do it not
Different.
violently this time.
I see what you mean, though. He's like, let me show you how to do this. He takes him to the top of the wall. He's like, okay, tell me everything you know.
In which case, Sanderson definitely has this thing for spearmen.
Yeah.
I'm sure it seems that way, but like in medieval times, spears were the army weapon. Like you didn't get a sword, you got a spear.
True.
The sword was like the equivalent to a pistol. Like that was an officer's sidearm.
Yeah. I'm just surprised. Like, did we ever see a spear in Mistborn?
Yeah,
Yes.
Kelsier gets
Yeah.
impaled by one.
Oh, true. I'm trying to
Kind
think
of
of
a
like a
big deal.
character. I'm trying to remember a
Also,
character
like,
that like specifically uses
all
one.
of the soldiers on used spears.
True. Man, all of the trilogies just erased from my mind already.
Like the most important thing.
Well, I wasn't
Like,
thinking of that.
literally, the symbol of the
The
of
statue,
his
yeah.
religion.
I can see
other
the
than-
statue, but like, I was like, Kelsey doesn't. I was like, does Sayes ever use a spear? No. Spook? No.
That's also because none of those characters are like
fighters.
fighters.
That's what's dope about shard blades, though, is it's just like you got a sword that's as long as a spear and weighs less. That can cut through
down
anything.
12 men in a single swipe.
Oh,
And one of them makes you fly. Like that's
yeah.
two
I'll
of
take
them.
that.
Two of them probably, yeah.
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 There was a line about how only humans have souls or something. And I thought that was nice because I had a math teacher back in middle school, and this was at a Catholic school, and like he was a very devout, almost radical Catholic, and he ruined my. And I still have this engraved in my memory. He was like, "Your guinea pig doesn't have a soul. Animals don't have souls." And I'm like, "So I won't get to see my guinea pig in heaven?" He's like, "No."
Sad.
You're
So-
telling a 13-year-old this?
Another way you could have kind of thrown that back at him is, but humans are animals, so animals don't have souls, so humans don't have souls.
Yeah, but this was the type of person that would. They got angry at me for reading Witches and Wizards by James Patterson because it said witches on the cover.
Oh man.
Yeah. Yeah. This was that kind of person.
Mm.
Let's see. And then Deloff knows that Aeons exist. That's kind of his whole background.
Yeah.
And that's all I got for 6.
And I feel like Deloff knows that the Elantrians actually did have power, and that they were actually very powerful at one point, and is now taking the chance to kill
I gotta
them.
wonder.
Really, the only threat to the decor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To the decor.
Decor. I also have to wonder if, like, because the answer to the, what is it? I'm gonna call it the Aeon router, is the fact you just need to add in the one line. So, like, I wonder if, like, he knew and was like, we need to take them out before some idiot decides to just drag a stick along this dirt path. And, like, 1 out of a million odd gets it right.
Well, we don't know that the decor bone glyphs work the same way as the Aeons.
Yeah.
They're similar, clearly, but we don't know if they're identical in that way.
Yeah. That's all I got for this chapter. Chapter 7.
Let's do it.
This is the one with Raoden trying to do Aeons, but he hasn't added the lost line, or the unknown line.
And
then
Raoden started his gang.
Yeah, Raoden starts his gang. One person at a time. Yeah, Marishi
The
gang.
band back together.
Dude, we're getting the band back together. And then the thing he takes from the Marishi's bag is corn seed.
Corn.
Because they're gonna grow corn. Which, is it modern corn or like medieval corn?
We don't know.
Okay.
There's
Yeah.
no what.
I think it's actually the band corn.
I'm just throwing out some of my knowledge.
Every time corn comes up as a subject, I think of Two Stupid Dogs. It's an old Cartoon Network cartoon. Or was it Nickelodeon? I think it was Cartoon Network. There's two stupid dogs, and periodically they would encounter corn, and they loved to chew on the corn. And the bigger one would periodically burp up a cob of corn. It was just a running gag through the show.
Okay. On that
Fans
note,
of two dogs, right in.
I knew cat dog.
Yeah, no, this predates Cat Dog.
Okay. Anything else for this really, honestly, nothing spoilery chapter?
Yeah, not a whole lot.
Yeah. Chapter 8. I love how Sereni's thing about don't sit in the middle of my thing, she moves off to the side, is exactly what Sazed does with Ben.
Oh yeah, it is. To mess with her when they first meet.
Exactly. He's like, do you have to stand over my shoulder? Moves over to the other side.
Takes a one step back.
Yeah.
Or it's also like when this isn't as on purpose, but in Rhythm of War, when they're in Shadesbar, all of the Spren, all of the cryptic Spren are surrounding Shallan as she's drawing, and she's like, can you take a step back? And they all take a single step back and then lean farther in.
Brennan likes this one joke.
Take what the person said literally.
Very oh shoot, what was that book? Where the nanny always takes things literally.
Amelia Bedelia.
Oh.
Amelia Bedelia.
Not the nanny, the housekeeper. The maid.
Yeah. Okay. My brain just reliving some. Like, I remember the one where she was playing baseball. Take home. And she takes them as plates and, like, goes home, makes cookies on them. I might be dating myself.
No, we still have Amelia Bedelia books in
Really?
schools. Yeah.
Do you still have book fairs?
Yeah.
Nice. Scholastic is still a thing.
Yes.
Yep, Scholastic is still a thing. And in fact, you can now actually buy books online through the Scholastic book fairs as well.
Nice.
I remember how
exciting.
No.
Oh.
Now
I'm the old one. Oh, wait, I was the old one.
I remember they used to give us like the sheet magazine of it. I can remember the feel of the paper.
Yep.
Yeah.
Those are still around.
Like the same paper they used in phone books.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, I'm the only one who knows what a phone book is.
I know what a phone book is. I remember having a phone book.
Is.
I remember thinking it was really weird for like us to have knowledge of everybody in the county's phone number and name.
No, you could be unlisted.
And then there was always like this chest, not a chest, like a vault that you could put your coins into, and if you shook it, it made like a rattling noise. That was an option to get at the book fair.
Oh, I don't know what that is. I don't know about
Didn't
that.
have that.
It was I don't remember. I remember getting it one year. It's literally just a little
A
toy
bag.
vault. It was like this big. It was literally the size of like a book. It was like you put your
So, like a piggy
change.
bank?
Yeah, it was a piggy bank basically, but made to look like a vault, and it had like sound effects for it. And to be honest, as long as you like tapped it on the corner, the thing swung open.
When I was young, we had goosebumps. You remember goosebumps?
I was never a Goosebumps kid.
I wasn't either. Or an Animorphs kid. I also didn't like the Animorphs.
I didn't
I
like the
remember,
Animorphs either. They were just a big thing that were very popular.
I read the Brady Boys and
Yep.
what's
Mine
the...
was like Magic Treehouse or whatever.
Oh, I freaking
Magic
love...
Treehouse.
Yeah.
I have a
Those
photo
were
of me for
Holy
book
left
day.
foot at Albuquerque, Batman.
Yeah. Okay, I'll leave it at this. Actually, okay, we'll end it here, and then I'll tell my story. Anybody else have anything to say about this chapter set?
Well,
One
my favorite thing
thing-
about the Scholastic Book Fair was the Guinness Book of World Records, but we can move on.
One thing that's actually Cosmere related. We talked
Longest-
about the passing of a Seon.
Yep.
There actually has to be some kind of a ritual, because if a person with a Seon bonded to them gets afflicted by the Sheod,
There has to be a connection.
Seon goes a little cuckoo too.
Yeah.
So
My Seon to you, my Seon becomes yours.
Oh my.
Right. I imagine it's a little
No.
bit like
Not allowed.
Well, it's
activating service on your cell phone, right? You could
I
kind
think
of like...
it's more similar to like a radiant bond in a way.
I think so too.
Yeah,
Because of the nature of what the Seons are.
and
Yeah.
there is a WoD that a Seon can become a Shard Blade if pulled into the
Ooh.
physical realm.
Interesting.
Interesting.
Yep.
It is interesting.
And like I do
So
have to
they're just like little investiture cell phones.
cell phones. I would think that the ceremony has to include some kind of glyph or some symbol.
Well, that's the way the magic there works, so I mean it would make sense if it did.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm making some bets before the book comes out. Making
How
sure
much
I
you
like
got
that.
riding on that novel?
Not much, but just in case.
It was a
Anything
quick
else?
drop of just the word autonomy when Lukel was explaining that the Merchant's Guild was autonomous. And I thought that was kind of thematic.
But that's
Definitely
just
want
the
the last shard to be secrecy.
I disagree with that so much.
Dude, I got the idea from you!
Did I say secrecy?
Or something like it, you know, secrecy,
I don't think I ever
privacy, or, you know...
Privacy I would like. It's just secrecy is too... Sort of. And too... It's both too vague and too specific. It's too obvious, I guess.
Well, it's definitely a sort of behavior of sentient beings that hasn't been represented by shards yet, so...
Yeah.
We don't got... Yeah. We were kind of missing... Like, I was thinking maybe it could be like love or something, but that seems way too broad.
That could be a Dawn Shard.
Yeah, I could see that.
Well, that's just about going to cover it for this episode. Thank you so much for joining us in our Ramblings and Predictions. This has been Cosmere Connections, and we hope to see you next time. Bye.
Bios Domizers.
See ya.
Magic Trios, freaking love that book series as a kid. I think it's what got me into reading. There's a photo of like 10-year-old me dressed up as Jack for book day at school. Right? This was before I needed glasses, so we bought like giant glasses, painted them red.
Funny.
That's awesome.
I wore the yellow shirt, black backpack. I dressed up like him for one of the covers, and nobody knew who I was, except for
That's
like one person.
hilarious.
I can dig up that photo.
I still don't know who you were.
Jack is the main character.
The two main characters are
I
Jack
think
and
it's fair,
Annie,
but,
brother
like,
and sister.
I don't know what the Magic Treehouse is, so.
Oh.
Oh man.
It's
So-
about these. It's
Is
about
it
these
related
two.
to the Magic School Bus?
No, but kind of.
It's about these two siblings who find this tree house in the middle of the woods near their house that has a bunch of books in it. And when they open the book and they point to it and say, "I wish I could go there," the tree house takes them there to that time, that place, that time
So it's-
period.
More related to Doctor Who.
Yeah. It's more
Yes.
similar to Doctor Who.
And like they're always in like 4-book arcs. So, like the first one's like they need to find like 4 things given to them. Like I think
And it has
They
to
go
do
s-
with, like, so there's Morgana and Merlin are in
Mhm.
it, and they're the ones who own the books and the treehouse, and are.
Which,
and
by
they-
the way, this completely screwed up my Arthurian legend because my very first knowledge of Arthurian legend. Oh, Morgana and Merlin are like best buds. They work together. And, like,
No.
you know, they built a tree house
Also,
and
no.
infused it with magic.
Yeah,
Like,
those are
they go
cool
to
books.
dinosaurs,
Everyone
they
was
go
a
to the
say-
different
moon.
genre.
Yeah, but the book series that got me into reading were the A to Z mysteries.
Okay, I know
Which I
that.
don't know if
Sounds
you guys
familiar, but
ever.
That does sound familiar. Is it like short stories
Like
or?
A is for arson or whatever.
It's a series of like kids mysteries.
Okay, that's not what I'm thinking of then.
No, it's like it's a kids mystery book series where like each
Are you thinking the ABCs of Death?
Maybe.
each book is related to like a different letter in the alphabet. It's like the I can't remember any of the names, but
I don't know. Sorry, I don't remember. As I try to
so
find this
like
photo.
the absent author is the first one.
That does sound slightly familiar.
The Canary Caper, the Deadly Dungeon, the Empty Envelope, the
Okay,
Falcon's
gotcha.
Feathers, the Goose's Gold. So, and
So it's
they
like
also,
an allegory.
Yeah. Well, it's alliteration.
The books that got me into reading were the Great Brain series.
Yeah.
Never heard of those.
Yeah, they're from
I
the
haven't heard of
60s.
them either.
What should I
but
post this photo under?
I don't know what you're talking about.
General
Probably BTS talk.
Yeah, sure, I'll do it in
BTS
general.
BTS talk. You could put it in behind the scenes. You don't want everyone to see this photo of you.
It'd be funny if we use that channel to just talk about K-pop.
Well, I've limited the BTS is just core members, so
So we could just talk about K-pop.
yeah, we could.
Isn't that insane? That's hilarious.
Core members of the
Oh.
band BTS.
Yeah, exactly. But
Like-
the author who wrote the A to Z mysteries also wrote the Capitol mysteries, which took place in
A to Z
DC, which was like, I was like, ooh, that's awesome, because that's like where I live. So
That is really
I was
cool.
Oh,
like,
I
I've
think I
been
remember
there.
these. I think I remember these.
yeah.
Alright, well, I need to go to bed. So,
My school
I
teacher is a
also-
vampire.
Yeah.
And,
I
Like
like
also
the-
gotta go to bed.
did anybody else read Bunnicula?
I know what you're talking about. I did not read it, but I know what you're talking about.
Oh, those were
Amelia
those were great.
Bedelia? No.
No.
You guys
There
ever
was a
read a
character
series
that
of
was
Right, that's what we
unfortunate
were
events?
just talking about.
I didn't read any of the ones scary,
Funicular wasn't scary.
I didn't like scary.
but the cover looked scary.
Well, I suppose.
A little
It
bit.
was a.
It was a vampire bunny that would
I know,
suck the juice out of vegetables.
but the cover was a picture of a
But
bunny
what is that? That
looked
reminds
like
me.
blood on it. So
Wait, what is that book? What's that book?
Bunicula?
Benicula?
Bunicula.
Like Bunny, Dracula?
that's also why I didn't ever read the Goosebumps books or the Animorphs, because their covers looked scary. So I didn't want to
Yeah.
read them.
Which is weird because I read Frankie S. Stein.
The Gooflumps?
I don't remember that.
Instead of... they were parodies of the Goosebumps books.
Sure. I never read Goosebumps. The only thing I know about Goosebumps is from the one movie.
I don't think I ever watched the movie.
Franny K. Stein.
Yeah.
Like the girl with the purple hair who looked like it has like demon eyes.
Exactly,
She looks
yeah.
kind of scary. She looks
This
like
was-
she's gonna murder you. Yeah, I read this one. The mad scientist.
Spooky stuff, kids. Yeah,
Alright,
the only series like I was into was a series of unfortunate events. But besides like Magic Treehouse.
I never read those, but I
I'm
love
so
the
into
movie.
those.
I hate the book
Also
series. I
never
love the
read
TV show. Or the Netflix show.
I never
Weird.
finished the Netflix show. I loved the movie, though, but I wish they would have made more of them.
As
The
good
books
as
were
Jim
awesome,
Carrey
but-
is in the movie, oh shoot, who's the guy they have?
Ooh.
Who's
Count
Barney in How I Met Your Mother?
Oh.
Oh, Neil Patrick Harris.
Neil Patrick Harris. Neil Patrick Harris does a great job as
Neil Patrick Harris is
Count
just a
Olaf
great
in the
actor.
Netflix show.
He's just a fantastic actor.
Alright, sorry
Yeah.
for keeping everybody up.
Okay.
No,
You're
that's
fine.
okay.
Good night.
Good night,
Good
everybody.
night, y'all.
So, one thing that's weird about pewter is it conducts heat really, really quickly. And I'm literally watching the 2 ice cubes that I just put in here melt in like
You're
real
so
time.
foil.
It's freaking crazy.
You messing around with some pewter over there?
I am.
Yep.
Check it out.
Ooh.
What do you have, a pewter
It's a
chalice?
Hufflepuff.
I
have,
also
I have
said it was
pair
a
of them
chalice.
and a pitcher.
Because you don't just refer to something that elegant as a cup.
No.
Yeah.
It's actually a part of a set that was given to a friend for her wedding. So she referred to them as goblets.
Ooh, another good one.
Hmm.
I am fine with chalice. That works just fine for me. But you know,
I'd love to know the distinction if there is one.
When my family went to
Maybe how
Germany,
ornate
it up.
or how big.
probably how ornate, I would guess. When my parents went to Germany when we were kids, they brought back the old German kind of lagers that have like the little push thing at the top that flicks the thing. Think Beauty and the Beast,
Interesting.
the cups that sing, those
This
exact
is a
cups.
chalice.
It's a
goblet.
chalice?
A goblet. It's like the difference between a red wine glass and a white wine glass. A goblet is like rounder on the bottom, whereas a chalice has this
it's like
little bulge
daintier.
right here and a wider base, but it's
Mm.
taller.
Hmm.
Oh.
Cool. So we
Well,
were
so-
right,
Yeah,
Swiggity.
you totally got it in one. Like, look at that. I learned
Yeah,
today.
The more you know.
The more you know.
Oh, and
That's a
John,
cool
to
cup,
your
though. I call that a cup.
Thank you.
John, to your comment, I was actually hoping you were gonna reference the ledger because I was gonna say it's the steampunk distribution belt venue.
The steam trunk distribution venue.
And then watch the other two's eyes just get glazed over.
Well, they don't know what we're talking about. They could probably
No.
guess, but they don't know.
Yeah.
a pretty good guess.
Yeah, you probably do.
Of all the memes on this podcast, the West Wing one is super consistent.
Exactly.
It is. It is.
Very much so.
It's more consistent than our own government.
Oh, that's for sure.
Damn.
They
Did you
actually
see
make a
Trump?
joke about that in the West Wing. They talk about how President Bartlett's cabinet was the most stable cabinet in since I think Washington or something like that, or Truman.
Truman, I would
Yeah,
bet.
they make a joke about it. It's funny.
Yeah. Did you hear?
Like, it's a show I would never choose to watch based on my personal interests, but hearing you two talk about it, it's like, maybe I should give that a...
It's the
Check
weirdest
out.
thing that you say that, because when I was first introduced to it, I wanted nothing to do with it. I was like, that's politics. I don't want to see it. I don't care. But my buddy is a big, like, political watchdog. Like, he's all into it. And he would just put it on at his place. And eventually, after, a couple dozen episodes, I kind of got sucked into it, especially because it was like, the first 5 seasons were in syndication already. So we'd be watching it on like A&E or whatever, and it would just bop back and forth between seasons, and there's this whole thing where one character kind of goes off and does his own thing and is replaced by another character. And so I'm like, I don't get it. Which one is the deputy communications director? Is it Sam or is it Will? I don't
Will.
What the hell's going on? And my buddy's like, "Oh, yeah, you're not watching these in order."
Don't you see that the camera has changed?
So, yeah, it's a thing.
I'm just trying to think if that's ever happened to me with this show.
My dad
Sister
would.
Wives.
My dad would watch it quite frequently.
That happened with me with Bridgerton.
Bridgerton. Is that one on Netflix where it's like constant sex?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I was wondering what that was.
It's the one that's romance novels that were turned into a TV show. So
Romance is being generous.
Gotcha.
they are romance novels.
Smut.
The goal is for romance at the end, is to find the love. That is
Smut.
I haven't watched much of it, but my girlfriend's father was watching it at one point, and in that episode, one of the nobles was teaching a young noblewoman, the redheaded one, about self-love, and it was like,
Yeah.
what the hell are you watching, old man?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, that was all I needed from that show. I was like, okay, and we're done. Next.
Yeah. I don't
Yeah, I
even know
remember
where to
that scene from. I remember that scene from West Wing.
Yeah, let's swing it back to West Wing. Remember in episode 1 where Sam sleeps with a hooker?
Yeah, that didn't last very long.
Wait, that actually happened? I thought you were just
Oh yeah,
That's the first 5
literally
minutes.
the pilot. In the first 5 minutes,
Whoa!
one of the main characters is sleeping with a hooker.
Does he do in the titular West Wing?
No, in her apartment.
Well, close enough.
No.
The West Wing of the building.
He doesn't know she's a call girl.
But when they wake up in the morning, she's smoking a joint, and he's getting a message on his pager saying, "Come to the office." So, let me tell you something
POTUS
about-
says POTUS fell off his bike.
Tell your friend he's got a funny name.
He's not my friend, he's my boss. It's not his name, it's his title.
POTUS?
President of the United States. We're gonna get them to watch it, John. We're gonna get them.
We might get Swiggity, but I have my doubts with Kay. I'm just sitting there watching her like, nope.
Peer pressure. With peer pressure.
Can we please move on?
Yeah.
West Wing. All right, back to whatever I was doing. I don't know. I historically have a really difficult time ever choosing to watch a show. For some reason, it's a lot of YouTube videos.
That's mostly what I watch too.
It's also because watching like a show is like it's like a big commitment.
Yeah.
Like
Like reading
is.
a 487-page novel.
that's besides the point.
Yeah, it is weird you say that, and like audiobooks makes it really does help with that. But like just thinking about it, like I don't know how a reader, like I don't know how you find the time, or UK because you read too, right?
Sometimes.
Fair enough.
My issue is that I don't get to read brand new books anymore because it takes my mind to get used to the writing style and the universe, and I gotta adapt to all those new things that it takes too much time for me to divest into that. Meanwhile, if you give me like a brand new Rick Riordan, Brandon Sanderson, or a book series that I used to read, I'll be like, I can get back into this, easy peasy. Give me the new thing. Let's go.
I find that a lot with bands these days. Like so many new artists, I'm just having a hard time connecting with. But I'll go back to my favorite album from 2014. It still hits.
I just searched up 2014 country music hits, and that's all I listen to.
Yeah. I've found that recently, at least for me, like when trying to like read new books and stuff, I often can't choose anything that's like too complicated or like heavy. Like I otherwise like I won't get into or too long, honestly. Like cuz I will often like if I can't finish it in a day, like I'll put it down and I won't pick it back up. Like
Whoa. That's crazy because we're all Sanderson fans. Like we're not scared of big books, you know.
Yeah.
Is it just that the Cosmere has such a hold on our imagination?
I think well,
I don't know. I don't really have this problem.
Oh,
that might be part of it for me, but also like the fact that like I don't know, I feel like I don't have a lot of time to read. So like when I do get into like the attitude of like wanting to read more books and stuff, like it's like I want to choose shorter books because then I can read more of them in a shorter amount of time, and it's again it's less commitment. Um,
yeah. I think what happened to me was I started a book and I finished it, and I was just not impressed with it. The book is really popular. It's called Name of the Wind by Patrick
Yeah,
Rothfuss.
I didn't like that
I've
one either.
heard about that. I've heard that that's really good from a lot of people who like Sanderson.
I loved sections of it, and there were things that I really adored about it and connected with. But overall, by the end, I was like, man, I don't even want to read the next one. Like,
I did not like the storytelling mechanism. It's a story told by a storyteller to a person in a bar.
right.
And there's a lot of back and forth, and I don't know if the whole book continues that way because I could not finish it. I couldn't. I was like, ugh. Yeah, I couldn't do that one.
And knowing that people have been waiting for the third one for a really long time, and they don't know when it's coming, it's also
Yeah.
kind of like, ugh.
Yeah.
See, that's part of the reason that I haven't read it is because I'm like, see, that's also like with me, like I don't want to start a series that's not finished. Like,
She said as
Yeah.
she finishes up Rhythm of War.
I know, as I finish up, but I think that's partially because Sanderson takes up so much of my brain, like
I mean,
that,
that's
like
fair. It kind of is
I
all-consuming.
and
Yeah.
like whenever a new like I know that like when a new Sanderson book comes out, I'm going to be rereading the Sanderson books. So it's like I don't really want to start another series that I would have to reread the to have more books to reread when the next book in that series comes out. Like
Right. Like when number 3 comes out, having to go back and read number 1 and number 2 again.
yeah.
Oh, and
And
I
with,
do that with all the Sanderson series.
I mean, yeah, but that's my point. I do it with all the Sanderson series, and I don't really want to add more
to
series to
that.
have to do that on top of.
Yeah.
Like,
That's what's beautiful about Cosmere at this stage is that it's like we're getting brand new series, but they're also adding on to what we know. It's
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's
perfect
part of
blend.
the hook, right? Like, I mean, we're all looking for how does this connect to Scadrial? How does this connect to Roshar?
hmm
You know,
Yeah.
That was
oh, I
honestly
think that's
one of
an
my
ether. You know,
like that was some of my qualms about reading like the secret projects. Like I gotta get used to this whole brand new world. What the heck is? Why is there sand everywhere? Why is everything nighttime now? What do you mean the sun tries to kill you?
That book was like in terms of just throwing crazy world building stuff like foreign planet that you have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
That book of all of Sanderson's I think is the one where he just throws you in and he's like, all right,
It doesn't
we're
even
gonna
give
do
us answers.
well, he even said that one was dedicated to the fans who have been following for the Cosmere. Like,
Yeah.
it is for our people.
Which is ironic because it's like the one planet that doesn't get like, hey, can you give us an explanation of why it's like this? No.
It was also my least. Well, no, not my least favorite, but it was probably my second. It was in the middle of the 3 Cosmere books.
I don't know which one I could, because they're all so drastically different. I like them all for
They are.
completely different reasons.
Right.
Like
But
you've
I
got Brandon doing a love story, you got Brandon doing a fairy tale, and then you got Brandon doing basically a character arc for a character who's we haven't even gotten to that
well,
point
you
yet.
you have, and then you have Brandon doing a Mad Max Fury Road style book. Like,
It
that's
is kind of
That's
crazy.
also
Like
true.
just the idea of having a character arc that is so far removed from what you know about that character is
Mhm.
wild.
Yeah, I really need to reread that one too. Even though it wasn't my favorite of them, I would still place it probably like middle of the pack for his like of all of his works. But I need to go through and like now that I know and understand like a little better, I need to go back and reread and not be upset that I think it's spoiling who, book 5 of Stormlight. That was a big issue for me.
Yeah. Speaking of ranking books, you guys want to talk about everybody's least favorite Cosmere book?
Yeah.
Which is not to say it's bad, just that the others are better.
I don't know. I think we're so far we've been just getting better and better and better.
yeah.
Yeah.
You
I
mean
meant
from
Elantris.
the OG
I know what you
trilogy
meant.
to Elantris?
Like I think as we've been going through these books, I think they've just been getting better and better and better. I really like Elantris. Not
I
to say
haven't
too,
reread it
you know,
in a while, and there's definitely some qualms I have, but so far I'm enjoying it. When I was doing the notes last week, I was like, man, I'm actually really invested into this. What the heck?
I mean, I would say we started with like a 7.5 and we've been creeping up like a tenth of a point with each book. Possibly stumbling over the Well of Eternity or whatever.
Well of Ascension.
Well of Ascension.
Well of Eternity.
This is the second bottle that's been cracked today.
Well of
I
Endless
shared the
Pages.
first one with my girlfriend, so I'm already this, and she hasn't had any of this one. So, Well of Ascension.
Once you have a chalice like that, you gotta keep feeling it.
I mean, how could you not, right? I'm channeling my inner Breeze today.
It's just staring at you.
Okay.
I was just thinking about what you could do with breaths, because you were talking about it again. Could you
Yeah.
make another God King with enough breaths? Is there like an 11th heightening or whatever? Like that would... Or is there just like the one deific breath,
I think there's just the one deific breath
No.
given by
No.
endowment.
Because...
So, because the God King is just a regular return with a shit ton of extra breaths on top of it.
But And John, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm assuming he means, can a normal person become a godkin
Become it.
or returned just by using normal breaths?
Well, can they get to that heightening? Yes.
Yeah, but they wouldn't become returned.
But they wouldn't become returned. No.
Yes.
But someone could, like a normal person could reach the 10th heightening if they have enough breaths.
Because there's nothing really special about the breath other than the fact it's a super breath. Therefore, yeah, okay.
Yeah. It's just that being a returned gets you automatically to the 5th heightening, so it's like cheating a little bit. Like
A little bit?
You get a little bit of a bump.
It's crazy that we still don't know like how or why people get returned.
It's endowment. Endowment decides. Endowment
Has schemes.
Endowment has schemes, and endowment looks into the future, essentially. And when a person dies, endowment looks into their future and sees if they would be able to make an impact in the way that she would want it.
And then Marsh shows up.
And then she
wow.
And then she returns them. Yeah. And then she decides to bring them back. So that's what.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was that in a WAB? I missed that one.
No, so it's just from reading Warbreaker, because we know that endowment is the one who is the god on that planet.
Mm-hmm.
And she is the one who is deciding who returns.
When
and
Light
we
Song
know
starts
that
getting his memories back.
they get we know that the returned can see things that are supposed to happen in the future, have some sort of like future knowledge, fortune, and they have their deific breath, their one deific breath, that they can use to do some big thing. So.
Oh, cool.
We see when Light Song is about to die and he remembers when he did die, and Endowment is there and she's like, hey, I picked you to do a thing.
And
We'll
do
get
you
to
want
that later.
They have a choice of whether or not they want to come back. She asks them, do you want to return? Like, this is what.
Oh, wow.
But she doesn't typically say,
choice.
Your life's gonna suck, though.
Yeah.
No, she's like, you get to, live. Which most people would take that option.
Blushweaver dies like a bitch.
Yeah, poor Blushweaver.
Sad. What were you saying, Swiggity?
I don't know. I have always had this weird connection of like, well, the returned in Warbreaker reminds me of like the returned singers in Stormlight. So I've just always thought that mechanically they might operate similarly. And then there's also like what's happening with the Reod and the Shaod almost has a similar feel to it. And I'm in my mind I'm just like trying to like make these threads connect somehow.
No, the returned singers are more like Kelsier.
Possession.
And it's more like Kelsier. How Kelsier stayed as a cognitive shadow and has been able to staple his soul back onto a body somehow. Like the returned are stapling their souls onto a body each time they come back. Like they don't have an actual body. They're just cognitive shadows that are essentially being stapled into.
Oh, gotcha. So when Lightsong gets returned, he has like his own new body. And
it's his body. He gets returned to his.
She just fixes it.
Yeah.
It makes it
cooler. Did they come back like a little bit, like taller and like?
Yeah.
Well, that's his own. That's his own mind.
Oh, okay.
Doing that, because you because the returned have the power to change their appearance.
I just,
Have the
it's
ability to change their appearance.
it's kind of funny that every single returns, right after dying, it's like, what would really be cool? Biceps. Like, everybody goes for the Adonis.
Well, not everybody.
No,
Not
it
sure.
depends on what the
Yeah.
societal view of perfection is.
But,
They
like,
talk about how the different goddesses have had different body types over the years.
But, like,
depending on-
it's more so just, like, they don't immediately view themselves as, like, they immediately view themselves as, like, a perfect form, not what they remember or what they knew was the previous body. So, like, I immediately imagine myself with the chiseled jaw and the pecs and the tiny waist.
What do you mean? I've always looked like Keanu Reeves.
Okay, we should do
I've
the
always looked
spoiler
like John
section.
Candy.
We should do the spoiler section for Elantris because I gotta go to bed. Because
Okay.
This will be a really short spoiler section.
Unless
Thank
I
you
bring
for
up
that.
Aeons again.
Explanation though, like that was awesome because I haven't
Yeah.
read Warbreaker in years.
So I'm having a thought, and it's admittedly tangential, but what if you were to spike a cognitive shadow onto a fused who is inhabiting the gem heart of a singer?
I don't think you could do that because only one soul can live in a body at a time.
Do we know that?
Cognitive shadow's not
Yes,
really
Yes.
a soul.
we
It's
do know
still-
that, at least in the case of the singers, because when the singers get stapled into when the fused gets stapled into the singer's body, the singer's soul is ejected from the body.
Right.
But that could also be just Odium doing like the bare minimum he needs to do in order to get something done because he doesn't want to invest and crush too much magic into it.
I mean, maybe.
I could see it as being possible.
Maybe a bondsmith could do it.
There you go.
Bondsmith don't chain.
That'd be really messed up though.
Oh jeez, that would be a cool book character. A single person who has like a cognitive shadow stapled into his head and a singer stapled into his head. Read a book on
Yeah,
that.
I don't think that you could have more than one.
Okay.
Whoa. What if that's what Shallan is?
No, Shallan's.
She thinks she's multiple personalities, but she's got multiple souls.
At what point does light weaving create life? When does it become life weaving?
Okay.
For the record, I don't think that's what Shallan is.
Let's get back to Elantris.
Just person goes into a light weaver doctor's like, this is what I want my child to be like. Destroy it. Things get really messed up on the chart, but okay.